All right, welcome back to Catalyst Conversations. Today's guests I found very interesting. We had an opportunity to talk about growing up in the parish with immigrant grandparents. We talked about his realization of the necessity for continuing education and how that process helped him become more open-minded, and how important it is to learn from outside organizations that are outside just this parish. And, of course, we talked about moral character and faith, which we love to talk about in these conversations, but especially in need of leadership. We talked about just what is your guiding principles, what is your Northern Star, what is the thing that guides you to moral conviction and leadership. And last, we talked about the upcoming millage, the vote that's about to happen in a few weeks. I'll let you be the judge of what you think about that. So today's guests, I wish to welcome Fire Chief Earl Borden. And we're back. So thank you, Chief, for coming back. We had some technical difficulties, and so we lost some of our video, some of our audio, and so I asked you back a week later to come back and finish our conversation. I shouldn't say finish, redo our conversation, because we had a really good conversation last week when you were here, and I was really disappointed when we lost it because we covered so many topics, and so I just wanted to get back and cover two of the topics that we lost. And so we'll start out kind of where we were. We were talking about leadership. We were talking about open-mindedness when we left off, and your journey of how you grew into the position that you are now, as well as the open-mindedness that you have and the leadership capability that you've learned and are still learning to become a better leader for all the people that you work with. And so one of the questions that we asked was, we talked about a moral compass, if you remember that. We talked about where does your integrity come from? We talked about this idea that there's 4 pillars to every good society. And we said that, for every good society, you have to have a good functioning government, one that communicates with each other, one that communicates with the people, one that does the will of the people. We talked about safety, the necessity for sheriff and fire department to be healthy, to do a good job, to do their jobs as effectively as possible. We talked about education. The school system has to educate kids. And then we talked about this idea that if you don't have this 4th pillar, all of those 3 crumble. You remember what that was?
Yes, faith, right?
That's right. Yeah. So the 4th pillar was faith. And so my contention is that if you don't have faith in a community, where do you get a moral compass? Where do you learn what right or wrong is? Because if there's no faith element, there's no moral element, then good and right and wrong, good and evil is arbitrary, isn't it?
Sure, absolutely. I'll agree with that. It's a really interesting topic, this 4th pillar, because throughout my education journey, they don't really talk about this because separation of church and state, and there's a lot of emphasis on the other 3 pillars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody talks about that. Everybody works towards that. St. Bernard Parish does a really good job in those other 3 pillars. And I'm glad that you're bringing that 4th pillar to light. And when I look internally at where I find my moral compass, and it's a lot to do with my family, doing the right thing, making the best possible community that I can so that my family can live in, enjoy, grow up in. And that's sort of my North Star. That's what keeps my moral compass going forward. Community, family, these events like we just had the Crawfish Fest this last weekend. So having everybody come together. 2 weekends ago we had the First Lady Easter egg hunt, seeing all the kids, enjoying it and not even realizing problems that we have because they're just there, having a good time. So and then I know you're going to talk a little bit more about some other ways that we can keep our moral compass.
Well, that was interesting that you brought up. So you said that we had an Easter egg hunt, right? That's a tradition.
Yes.
What's the point of that tradition?
I believe it's to get the community together so that we can celebrate family and community, and it's a holiday, right? It's a holiday event we know what Easter is, but it's a holiday event to get together and have kids having a good time, and the community out there giving back to the family and the kids, showing that, hey, the community, that the government cares about the community.
Right. And so here's where my contention with faith comes in. The moment that we take the religious aspect, the faith element out of Easter, then what is it? Then it's just what you said. It's just an opportunity to get together. So what separates Easter egg hunt from Crawfish Festival?
No, when you talk about it like that, it's another opportunity and another event to get together and have a good time and celebrate.
Which is important for community. I agree. You need those for community. But I think it's important to hold on to the things that the faith moments, those traditions that we have that have actually bonded us together for more than just fun. Because we can do fun everywhere. We can do fun stuff. There's all kinds of fun stuff to do in this place. But what are the things that bring us together and unite us together in something that is good and wholesome and faithful, moral? These things that give us genuine direction for this is what we should be doing in life. And so the reason I bring that up is one of the things that I've been thinking about for a while is this idea that fun is connected to happiness, and happiness is something that we all search for. We all want to be happy. But from a hedonist perspective, somebody who that's all that they search for is happiness, what we found throughout the centuries and through history is that hedonism always leads to emptiness, because you can never have enough happiness. Right? You can, once you get, I want this cup because it'll make me happy, and then after a few months, I want a different cup, or I want this truck because it's so cool, and then after 2 years, like, oh, I want a different one. You're never happy enough. You're always wanting something more. So true happiness doesn't come from a hedonist perspective of always just self-gratification. True happiness actually comes from the opposite, self-serving. It comes from selflessness. It comes from the idea of, like, when I serve you, when I help you, when I benefit you, I actually find joy in that. I find fulfillment in that. I find happiness in those things. There's something weird about the way that we were created as human beings, that when I serve you, I find happiness. Have you ever experienced that?
Well, that relates a lot to the better to give than receive motto that goes with.
And where does that come from?
Christmas, right? Yeah.
No, but it comes from somewhere else. Where does it come from? It's better to give than to receive.
Enlighten me.
That comes from the book of Acts, where Paul says, this is a statement from Jesus, which isn't in the Gospels. It's only found in the Acts. And so Paul is quoting. He says, as Jesus says, it's better to give than to receive. So you got some of that in there, right? And so we got to pull more of that out, because that is such a factual statement. It is better to give than to receive, and we talk about it a lot at Christmas. And Christmas is an interesting time of year, and it is an opportunity for us to give. But gosh, why is it only once a year that we think like that?
Just, I guess, the way it's always been, and that doesn't mean it's the right way.
But think about how good you feel when you give gifts to somebody, or when you give out gifts to little kids and stuff. How does that make you feel?
Oh, it's great. It's wonderful to see joy in other people for getting gifts, whether it's your kids or other kids or just other people.
Sure.
In general, just to be able to help give somebody and make somebody else's day pleasant.
Now, and so this is connected then to what you do for a living. Because what you do, and here's an opportunity as a leader for you to inspire your troops, it is better to give than receive, because what you do every day is serve. You give. Sometimes you give life. Right? And so one of the things we were talking about earlier was this idea that there's two forms of motivation. There's internal motivation and external motivation. And science has shown over and over that the greatest form of motivation is always internal. We tend to lean towards external, like I'll give you a raise, or I'll give you more money, or I'll give you this bonus, or I'll give you something. And that's no different than hedonism of I want more, because it's never enough, because you never get paid enough, right?
No.
You never get enough toys. But the internal motivation, where I can remind you every day of what you are doing is powerful and special, and you are making a difference, will actually inspire your people to do more work. to want to be there longer, to want to sacrifice more. Because if they know what they're doing is for the benefit of somebody else, you actually get more out of your people by doing that.
Yeah, I agree that you know, that internal motivation. That's why the majority of our people got into the profession they got into, to give back, to help people that need help, and that is a huge motivating factor. I agree with that. But I mean, they do go hand in hand in some aspects, because people still have to you know, be able to survive in other ways.
You have to get paid. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I would never say that you don't need money. Of course.
Right, yeah.
And people need bonuses or people need raises. I think those are deserved, especially if they are deserved. Like if you're working and you're earning that, like you should receive that. Don't get me wrong. But for a man who lives within a budget, and you got to inspire your people, and you have no money to give, right? What do you got to do?
Yeah, we gotta make do with what we got, and unfortunately that means tough decisions may have to be made.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this idea of internal motivation then goes back to the faith component, because faith is internal. It is expressed that how we feel inside of us. It's where we search deep inside of us. It's what we call, from the faith side, it's the soul that rests within you, right? If that is growing, if that is digging into deeper ideas and questions and thoughts and pursuing God in a way internally, then that is like a cup where eventually that will overflow. And the more that you seek out faith in your whatever faith that you have, the more that you pursue that and seek that out internally, the more that will eventually overflow into other aspects of your life. We talked at the simple level of just right or wrong, having a moral compass. But the more that you pursue faith, it actually starts to affect you at home. The way that you have relationships with your spouse, the way that you have relationships with your kids. Then it goes even further, the way that you have relationships with the people that you work with, how you lead. Because the faith component, and the more that you dig and pursue God, the more that you find these ideas of integrity and character and compassion and empathy, responsibility. Are those components of what you deal with every day?
Yes, all of it is. And I know people find those ideas in all varieties of forms. Some of them through organizations, whether it's civic organizations or churches.
Yep.
Some people through family, friends, just being a good, outstanding person that is there to help and serve. And I can say pretty confidently that the majority of our fire department all have those great intentions, and they're there to serve. That's what they signed up for. And not just the fire department, police officers, any civil servant really.
That's right.
They didn't run to the private sector where you can make more money.
Right.
That is part of it, right? That service versus that money. So I would definitely say that those things exist within our community.
Yeah, and I think that we're in a weird time now. Probably within the past 30, 40 years, this started to change, where civil servants were that. They were servants, so they were willing to get paid less because they were servants, and I don't know who started it. I don't know if it was, the people in Congress, the federal government or whatever, the people that they started giving themselves raises, and then everybody started getting raises. And then all of a sudden, I knew about 12, 14 years ago, they were trying to hire people in the government offices, and they were trying to bring people from the outside. And so they were raising the pay so they could match what people were getting paid in the corporate world. And so that just trickles down. And then everybody seems to think like, okay, well, I'm in this position. It's a servant position, but I deserve the same pay as somebody else. Why did that mindset change, do you think?
Well, I'll be honest, from my experience, what I'm seeing is that, times today are much different than they were 20 years ago when I got on the fire department. When I got on the fire department, and I went and took the entrance test, there was 100 plus people there taking the entrance test. There were 4 or 5 spots, 2 or 3 times a year. So it was extremely competitive just to get on,
Right.
get on the fire department. You had to score a certain grade on your test. You had to interview well. You had to do all of these things just to get an opportunity.
Sure.
Today, that demand isn't there, and it's not just for the fire department. And I'm talking about specifically St. Bernard, but it's for fire departments across the state and across the country. I have contacts all over the place. This is a nationwide problem, and not just for fire departments, for sheriff's offices, police departments, for government employees.
Yeah.
And you know, we meet once every 2 weeks, all the directors in government, and hiring is a problem everywhere. It is tough to get people to work, and everything you're saying is right. The intrinsic motivation and all of that, but at the end of the day, people, it seems like if you try to stay competitive within certain industries and especially the region, that you're going to have a little bit more success in attracting people to be able to do the work. So at some point, if you don't rise with everyone else, you're not going to be able to find the workforce that you need to be able to do the work that we all need, you know, want and expect for that safety portion, that one pillar we're talking about, right?
And I agree with that. And I've noticed that it's not only in those areas that you notice, like business owners. I've worked with business owners around here. Everybody's for years been like, where's all the employees? And not only that, here's the biggest problem. Where are the good employees? That's why I've been doing so many leadership seminars, you know, over the past 2 or 3 years now, because so many employers are coming to me and saying, like, how do we get good employees? And what I found is that this is a nationwide problem. I mean, there's plenty of workforce, but nobody wants a job. Nobody wants, and not only that, maybe you will get some people to get a job, but they're not any good a lot of times. You know, we're struggling to get good, hard-working, ethical people. How do you find those people in your profession?
Well, I'll tell you, it's tough. We have to, you know, advertise our agency, advertise what we do, and that it's a call for service. You know, it's a service orientation, and you know, we have to tell them up front that this isn't an organization that you're going to get rich in. You're just not. If you're looking for money, and this is not the place for you.
Right.
That it's about service, and really it's still a trial and error thing. It's you know, we take people on, and they, you know, early on, hopefully they find out that, you know, maybe this isn't for them, and we understand that, we respect that, and you know, we part ways early on rather than, you know, a couple of years in, somebody after a lot of training and investment, they realize, well, hey, this isn't for you. And this just reminds me very, very specifically of a story a couple of years back where we hired a firefighter, and we brought him in, hired him, went through all of the training, you know, asked him all of the routine questions, and he was, you know, all on board, I'm going to do this. And then we sent him to the academy, and the first day they start talking about some of the horrific things that you're going to see throughout your career. Right? And we don't know when that's going to be. It might be year 1, it might be year 5.
Right.
But you're going to see some things that normal people don't see. You're going to see some car wrecks. You're going to see some, you know, some deceased people. And I just shook him.
Right.
And he quit right then and there and said, this is not for me. And so it's really trial and error. You can put them through all of the tests and the questions and the physical aspect, and they might be able to do all of that stuff. But one little issue will turn them away. And back to your original question, when you were talking about the workforce, I really think a lot of this relates to the opportunities that are available today that weren't 20 years ago. And that is that people are able to they hop around a lot more because some people are finding more opportunities. The better, you know, if I get a little experience here and then I can hop there, you know, I can carve out a better path for myself.
Right.
And then with the explosion of the internet and all of these online social media influences and these different ways where you can generate money through whether you're a Lyft or an Uber driver or a DoorDash, like you can work when you want. Right. And you can earn as much as you want and stop working when you hit that threshold. And in industries like mine, you know, we don't have that flexibility. Yeah. You can't just come in when you want. We have a set schedule, and that's not attractive to some of this new generation. So it's tough. It's really tough.
So how are you gearing up to combat that?
Well, we're obviously launching recruitment campaigns We're doing job fairs. We just hosted one a couple of weeks back with the sheriff's office in conjunction because they're having the same issue. We're bringing out all the equipment we have. We're bringing out people that are talking about the organization and the service we provide, and we're trying to sell our organization and how, you know, it is a life of service, like you said. We're there to help people, and it's not a lot of these other things that, you know, other people are maybe looking for.
I think that I wonder if I'm just thinking out loud here.
Sure.
You know, as you're competing against a lot of, whether it be TikTok or Uber or like all these things where I can make as much money as I want, work whenever I want, you know, and those are all things that can make money. And, you know, it kills me that so many people think they're going to be influencers and so on and so forth. It's just, but I think that we are missing a core element. It goes back, and it kind of ties into the faith element because it goes to the heart of who we are as human beings. And there is an element of not just the idea of service, but, you know, it's tied into a lot of, you know, Beauty and the Beast, or what was the Disney movie with the dragon? There's this idea. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jordan Peterson or read into his stuff. Okay, so he talks a lot about slaying the dragon and how, you know, it's the idea of overcoming these fears that bring us to greater fulfillment in life. And as I was talking about earlier with you last week, this idea of like, you guys are in a profession where there's danger and there's excitement, and we've forgotten, these younger generations, we've forgotten how necessary that is for us as a species, because we've become so content, or, you know, you're just comfortable, right? And we're not meant to just be comfortable. We're not meant to just sit at a desk and type out words on a computer. Like that's not how our body, our physical body, the physiology of how we are, that's not how we're designed. And so there's something that we have to do to get back to this spirit of, look, there's something that's adventurous inside of you, and we got to pull that out. And the fire department has a great opportunity to do that. You have an opportunity to live a life of adventure. You know, whether that be, you know, the Marine Corps, the fire department, or the sheriff's department, or something where you have an opportunity to, you know, maybe do something a little bit dangerous. It's not for everybody, but it's for the best. You know, how do you get those people? How do we get those people to remember this is why we do what we do?
Right, and part of our recruitment campaign is that no day is the same for us. Every single day is different. So you're not going to come in, like you said, go sit in a cubicle for 8 hours while you do TPS reports. So the fire department, you know, today may be a slow day, and maybe you don't have a lot of you know, calls, but next shift you may work multiple fires or car wrecks, and every single one of them are going to be different. And that is part of the excitement of the job, and that is part of what we sell. And of course it is dangerous, and somebody needs to do that work, because that safety part you were just talking about, that we become so comfortable because, you know, if we get hungry, food's right there, can be given to you within a couple of minutes. You know, there's no danger. You know, society and community as a whole has set it up to where everyone has opportunities to survive. Whereas in the past, like you're talking, you know, you had to fight to survive. Yeah. And I guess the good part of that is that it's one of those pillars of safety. But if you overdo it too much, then everybody gets comfortable. What you're saying reminds me of that. It's that endless loop where you know, hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men
create bad times. Yeah,
that's it. An endless circle. And where are we at in this circle? Because are we at that good times moment where you know, we all get to relax, and you know, everything we want is right there at you know, the tip of your hand, and so then what comes after that? And that's the
well, this is a biblical principle too, because what most people don't realize is that when we think of time as linear. You know, the past is the past, and we're going forward, and we're on this straight line. But from a biblical perspective, time is cylindrical. It's kind of like a slinky. it revolves and it goes in a circle, but it's never the same, kind of like your day, right? Your day's never the same. History's never exactly the same, but it seems to repeat, and it has these similar things that continually happen over and over and over, and it's going to be different, but too often we don't, the reason we repeat some of these things is because we don't remember. We forget. And so we continue to make the same dumb mistakes because that's how we're fallible. That's how we are as human beings. But the other side of that, the faith part, teaches that we're designed to be able to make choices. You've been given a spirit, a will to have free will, to free choices, to say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And it goes back to what I said. How do you make those choices? If there's no moral compass, if there's no right or wrong, you'll continue down the path that has always led to destruction and hurt if we forget. And so one of the things that we've seen in this parish is that 3 generations ago, this parish was very religious. I mean, everybody here was religious. I mean, it was like almost 100%. You were some type of Catholic. And then, a generation passes by and less people, and then another generation passes by and they're still religious, but they don't necessarily attend anywhere. And then the storm hits, and the people who were the attenders of Mass or a part of traditions or a part of faith, they all left, and then their kids are left here. And so those kids kind of were forced to go to somewhere maybe a little bit, or they went to Catholic school or something. But now there's nobody saying, hey, let's go to church or let's go to Mass or something. And so what most people do is, why would I do that? When I could go mow the lawn, or I could go fishing, or I could go, this or go do that. Why would I go to church? And then what happens to the next generation?
It's even less and less, right?
Right. And so the further away we get from those traditions that we remember that are a part of our daily life, the further away we get from knowing why we even do these things. And once we get to that point, then we have no moral compass anymore.
Just like I said, until something cataclysmic happens, and then suddenly you might revitalize everything.
And we saw that in 9/11. How old were you for that?
Oh, I was 20, so it was 2001.
Mm-hmm.
I was 18, 19.
Uh-huh.
I was still in college when that happened.
Right.
I remember that day very, very, very vividly, exactly what happened. So, you're saying that about St. Bernard, and obviously, are you seeing that across the state, across the nation? Or do you think that is isolated just down here?
Nationally, the national poll is about 36% of the country attends some type of church once to twice a month. 36%. I would say that's similar, if not even lower, here in St. Bernard, from what I've seen. We got about 40,000 people. I would say there's probably about, maybe just looking around and asking around and knowing the different churches that are here, there's probably about 4,000 people that go to church, maybe 5.
So 10% versus
Yeah.
the national average of 30
Yeah.
something.
Correct. So it's low.
Yeah.
And that, once again, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's those people of wisdom, those people that are older, those people that did attend, they don't live here anymore. We have a group of 30-something-year-old people, now almost 40, that nobody's challenging them to grow in their faith. So they get to do whatever they want to do. And so if I get to do whatever I want to do, what am I going to do? I mean, the hedonistic part of me says, I'm going to do what I want to do. Why would I do something that's going to make me better when I can just do what I want? And so, yeah, that's where I think that's where we are, I think, in this parish, and that's where I think we have to work harder. We have to work 10 times harder than what's happening in the rest of the country, because I think St. Bernard Parish is a great place. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think we live in an area that is somewhat isolated, but it can be influenced a lot by our neighbors, which New Orleans has its own problems. But I don't think we want those problems here. And so how do we combat that? Well, we don't combat it just by, logic or doing the things we've always done. We have to find ways to become better. And if we go to the scripture, if we go back to faith, within this tradition of text and these ideas, there's so many things in there that teach us how to become better leaders, how to become better fathers, how to become parents, mothers, how to become better employees. how to become stronger. There's all of these things that are in the faith traditions, the text. The question is, do we want to do that? And so that's where my challenge is for you as a leader in this community. Like, I want to challenge you to explore your faith, and maybe not explore your faith. Maybe just it's the beginning questions of what is faith. What does that mean to you, and how could that actually make you as a leader in this place a better person?
Yeah, that's a great question, and we talked about this a little bit last week, so I'll revisit it. That I am not as involved in faith based churches and stuff as probably I should be, especially as a leader, because I my kids, I want them to grow up in a safe community and have a good moral compass, and pushing them to do those things. I see the benefits of exactly what you're talking about, having that something to rely on even when things don't go a certain way, to have another community to depend on, to help advise when things aren't going well, because I won't always be here, and
Right.
I won't always be able to save the day for my kids like I try to. So I see the value and the benefit of that, and as a leader, if I can push some of those issues, I can see how that can spread and help not only the people that work for the fire department, but the community as a whole.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so let's transition then. We wanted to talk about, you have a millage that's coming up.
Yes, the fire department has a millage that's coming up, and it's an in lieu of millage. So currently we have 4 millages for the fire department, and they're spread out throughout the parish. 2 of them are in the 1st district, 1 of them is in the 2nd district, and 1 of them is parish-wide. So what's being proposed is an in lieu of millage that combines all 4 of these millages, but it also increases. So what this millage, what the intentions of it, what it's going to do is generate some more money for the fire department, so that we can do a few different things. One is reopening all of the fire stations like they were prior to 2018. This includes fire station that was closed on Norton Drive in Araby, and the fire station that was closed in Verret Drive, by the wall. So both of those stations will be back open, fully operational. What it's going to do is consolidate all of the millages into one millage, which actually addresses a legal problem that we discovered recently, right, where we have 2 separate fire districts by ordinance, by law, but we also have a charter that says we have 1 fire department. So there's a lot of confusion on how we should be operating. When you have separate districts, you need separate employees, separate equipment, things like that. But by operating as 1 department, we can share resources, and everything can be under 1 umbrella. So the passing of this millage will be able to address those legal issues and have 1 fire department.
Gotcha.
Another issue is to increase firefighters' starting pay. What we found around the region is that we are getting outpaced by the surrounding communities. Right now, a starting firefighter makes $11 an hour. Just last year, Kenner passed a millage, and they have assured that their starting firefighters will go up to $13 an hour. St. Tammany, they even though they have a similar starting pay as us, they offer some incentives where their people can make additional money. So what we're finding is that we're hiring people, we're training them, we're investing thousands and thousands of dollars into them,
and then they go somewhere else.
And before we can really use them throughout their first year of training, they're doing all this, passing all these certifications, and then right about the time where we can put them on the trucks and start using them, they leave and they go to these other jurisdictions because they're paying more.
Right.
So we have to stay competitive by raising the firefighters' pay.
And you're raising it from 11 to what?
So those numbers aren't finalized yet,
okay.
but at least to $12 an hour. So it'd be
Okay.
roughly a little bit under 10% minimum.
Okay.
Now, depending on exactly, because millages, it's an estimation on how much they're going to generate.
Right,
so
sure.
depending on exactly what they are,
Sure.
will help decide that. So some of the other things that we're gonna do, if this thing passes, is we're gonna provide additional training so that our firefighters can offer additional services to our community. We're gonna do a lot of what relates to the conversation that we had, professional development, where we can hopefully create some of the future leaders of this parish within our organization. And all of that is to just make a better fire department and better service for the community. And then lastly, we have fire stations that were built after Katrina, 2006, 2007. So at this point, they're 17, 18 years old. A lot of them need some TLC. They need a little care, a little updating, a little remodeling. 2 of our stations outside the levee protection need complete rebuilds because Hurricane Ida destroyed them. Our apparatus are anywhere between $750 to $1.5 million a piece. And right now we don't have the funds to have a capital plan to where we can purchase these pretty regularly.
Right.
The NFPA standard says that our frontline apparatus need to be within 10 years old. Our average apparatus right now is over 13 years old.
Yeah.
So we're out of that compliance.
Sure.
So a lot of the focus is going to be on improving the capabilities and the staffing of our fire department to provide a better service to St. Bernard Parish.
Gotcha. Who does the budget, oversees the budget for your whole department, and how does that work?
So for the department, the fire chief manages the budget.
Okay.
But I have oversight through the CAO and the finance director,
Gotcha.
parish government.
Okay, and they approve your budget every year, basically?
Well, that in conjunction with the council, it's checks and balances. So council approves the CAO and the president propose a budget and how the money's going to be spent.
Right.
The council approves it.
Right.
So it kind of keeps everybody in checks and balances.
Okay. Where are they with the millage? Has the council spoken out about it at
So
all?
I'll tell you, parish government, the officials in parish government are in full support of the millage. They understand that we need this to improve the fire department and also other areas in parish government, because if this millage doesn't pass, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heated discussions about not cutting fire service, which would impact other areas, and I can't speak to exactly what areas might be affected.
Right.
But it's gonna be parish widespread. And the council, the previous council voted, I believe it was 4-3 to put this on the ballot.
Okay.
The new council had an opportunity to remove it, and when they went to make that vote, it was 6-1 to keep it.
Okay.
So I've heard from numerous council people that we need to address the fire department issue. We've been having issues for quite a few years. Back in 2018, we had to close some fire stations because of budgeting issues. Then in 2021, Hurricane Ida damaged 2 of our fire stations, so we had to do some reorganizing again, and it really it created a little controversy, especially for people in certain areas that
Sure.
lost fire protection.
Right.
And so this is an opportunity for the people of St. Bernard to have their voice be heard. To decide whether or not they want to fund the fire department the way we were prior to 2018, or whether they don't want to, and then we're going to have to look internally at living within our means and figuring out exactly what that's going to look like.
Gotcha. All right. Anything else you want to share? Is this your plan you got here?
Yeah, so we have some signs that just got made, and we're putting those out. If anybody would like a sign, call our fire department headquarters, 504-278-4275, and we'll get your name and your address, and we'll make sure you have a sign just saying that you support the fire department. You're gonna see some flyers that we're gonna hand out, maybe even some mail outs that it's just informational purposes. We're not pushing people in one direction or another, but what we want people to understand is what you're voting on. What services we provide and what services we're gonna continue to provide should we be funded through this millage.
Excellent. And so here's your
Yeah, and I can talk a little bit, I don't wanna get too much into the details, but just for an example, for a home that has a market value of $200,000,
okay.
minus the $75,000 homestead exemption, you're going to be being taxed on, approximately $125,000.
Mm-hmm.
So this millage increase will cost you about $175 a year. And if you break that down, it's about 48 cents a day. 50 cents a day will give you top-notch fire department that is doing everything they can. They have the highest trained professionals, enough people, and the equipment to address any issues we have in St. Bernard.
Sure.
To that safety pillar that we talked about to make sure that remains strong.
Mm-hmm.
Just 2 years ago, the sheriff's office was dealing with a lot of the same issues. They were losing cops to other agencies because they couldn't stay competitive, and when that millage passed, you can see a drastic improvement in their recruitment, their retention, and all of those things. So that's what the fire department needs now at this point, because we're having the same issues.
Right.
So that's why we're offering the opportunity for the people of St. Bernard to voice their opinion and what they want to do with the fire department.
Excellent. Okay. Have you had anybody give any pushback to your plan so far?
Yeah, so there are some concerns, and everybody has an opinion, and I respect everybody's opinion. We hope that people can be respectful with their opinions and not mudsling and personal attacks. But
Right.
but some people are concerned that millages are going up, and the cost of insurance and property tax and all of these things keep going up, and some of the things we can't fully control, like car insurance, but homeowners insurance, one piece of it is based on your fire rating. Now, not every insurance company evaluates the same. Some of them evaluate a lot more with wind and hail and like the type of roof you have and how new it is and things like that impact your homeowners insurance. But other ones factor in the fire rating. And the fire department is rated on a scale between 1 and 10, with 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. Currently, we have a 2 rating across the parish. And with the passage of this millage, we're going to do our best to keep that 2 rating, and we'd like to even move it to a 1. But if it doesn't pass and we have to make some decisions, we don't know what that future is going to look like. And if those ratings go down, then that could potentially impact you and your homeowner's insurance, and you may be paying the same amount anyways.
Right.
You'll just either be paying it to a homeowner's insurance company, or paying it in millage taxes to the fire department.
Right.
So those are some of the things that people are expressing concerns about, and I understand that.
Sure. Excellent. Well, I think this is something that hopefully people watch us and dig in themselves. They'll have a desire to want to know more about the information, more about what's going on, see how this is going to affect us, and hopefully we can just have a more well-informed community. I think that would be fantastic. I think we need to do a better job of that, period. That's why we started these podcasts, because we have these politicians that come on here and they want to talk about what they're going to do. So I want people to have an understanding of who you are as a leader, and then some of the ideas of what we're trying to do to move forward. So I'll give you the last word.
I said it already, but I do appreciate the opportunity to come on here. I love having these discussions and having the people learn a little bit about not specifically me, but my organization.
Sure.
And the great work that the firefighters do, and how we are a big part of the community. We're out there, all these festivals, all these events, emergency calls. We're at the schools teaching kids about fire safety. We're at the Council on Aging. We're installing smoke detectors. We're out there in the community doing the work. And we want to make sure the people of St. Bernard know that. So I do appreciate this opportunity. And I said before that hopefully we can do it again, whether this millage passes or fails, 6 months, 9 months down the road. I'd love to come back and kind of talk about where we are, from where we are today, where we are then from where we are today.
Perfect.
And where we're going, and the things that we're doing, the different partnerships, and so I do appreciate the opportunity. I wanted to thank you personally.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on. This would be great.
Yeah.
So, perfect. Have a good one, sir.
All right, thank you.
Excellent.
Good.
All right, so we're at a point in the podcast where we had some technical difficulties. We actually had to put the second part of our video and audio at the very beginning of this podcast, because the first part we had, like I said, technical difficulties. So you're going to get the second part here, which the audio isn't as good as the first part. We apologize for that, but we wanted to make sure and put it all in so that we would have the whole story and didn't feel like we were cutting anything out. So please enjoy the rest of the podcast, and we apologize for the audio and which you'll get next. Wherever it goes.
I've really did a full podcast like this. I've watched a few. I've watched a few that you did prior to the election.
Yeah.
So I think I told you that.
Yeah, and well, welcome to Catalyst Conversations. So it's a free flowing conversation, and really the point of this is I have a few ideas, but I want to get to know the leaders in this community. I want to know who they are. I want to know about their character. I want to know about the things that you care about, because as a leader in this community, you have influence over not just the people that are in your organization, but within people within the community, schools, kids, other people that look up to you. Like, you have a pretty big role, pretty big responsibility. And so as somebody who cares about these things, I talk a lot about leadership. I do a lot of leadership events. As well as a pastoral role, I talk about biblical leadership on a regular basis. And I think that we have a responsibility as leaders to do the right thing. And so I want to get to know the people that are in leadership in this parish and the ones who are making an influence, an impact, hopefully an impact in a positive direction. So let's start with you. I wanted to know, where did you come from? Are you from here?
Yeah. So first of all, I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the invite coming on here, and I'm excited to talk a little bit about not really just myself, but the organization and hopefully where we're going and the things that we hope to accomplish.
I know that you don't want to talk about yourself. That's great. I appreciate the humility, but I want to know who you are, and I'm sure that a lot of people in this listening to this podcast, they want to know for before you became chief. I don't know a whole lot of firefighters, so I don't see a whole lot of people. And so when I met you, I'm like, oh, great, I would like to know more about you. So there's a lot of people that are from here, born and raised. That's a big thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not from here. I've been here for almost 18, well, I've been here 18 years now. And still people look at me like an outsider. But I don't know, are you from here?
Yeah, so I'll tell a little bit about myself.
Please.
I'm actually a first-generation immigrant. My father was born in the country of Honduras,
okay.
Roatan, Honduras. He came over when he was 4 years old. His father was a merchant marine out there, so he did a lot of traveling. He had 8 brothers and sisters, and the whole family moved when he was 4, so that was in 1964.
Wow.
They moved into the city of New Orleans, and as you can imagine, there was a little bit of crime and some things going on.
Sure.
So eventually they migrated a couple years later into St. Bernard Parish, metro area of the city of New Orleans. So my father's family has been here since I don't know the exact year, maybe 67, 68-ish, something like that. And so they have always been here, and I was actually born and raised here in St. Bernard Parish.
Excellent. All right, what school did you go to?
So elementary, I went to Lacoste, which is actually where the 9th grade academy is before the storm.
Okay, yeah.
I went to Chalmette Middle, and then I went to the unambiguous, the discontinued St. Bernard High School, the War Eagles.
You're down the road kid.
So I'm what you would call, I guess you would say, middle of the road, because to the down the road community, I'm up the road, but to the up the road community, I'm down the road. So I'm in that. I was born and raised in the Francis subdivision, so it's sort of in between the two fields, the two Merrill fields.
Okay.
That whole community there.
Excellent. All right. So did you play sports or anything at St. Bernard High School?
Yeah. So I played rec sports here in St. Bernard Parish my whole life. I was Bournemouth Brave. That was, again, before Katrina, before it got discontinued. It's coming back now.
Yeah.
And then I played basketball in high school. In middle school, I played baseball and basketball. I played football through rec. I played all the sports. So.
All sports. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. All right. So family-wise, did you come from a big family?
So my immediate family, I have a little brother, and then I have an older stepbrother or half brother.
Okay.
And but Yeah, we're just a small. I grew up with just four of us. It was just my mom and dad and me and my little brother, and yeah, in that little community, small community, a lot of friends. Just regular St. Bernard kid growing up.
Close family?
Yes, close. Mom and dad married, happily married for since 1982. My father passed a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago now. So my mom's still in the same house that I grew up in, and then I actually only live about 2 streets over. So I stayed in the same subdivision, and my brother actually did too. He has since bought another house, and he actually moved a little further down in the Francis Carroll area. But yeah.
So after Katrina, your parents came back.
And that was a really tough decision because we lost our house, obviously. After Katrina, we moved to Mississippi with some family friends. We had a trailer on a piece of property that they had. I moved with them immediately, but with the fire department, over time they eventually set up a trailer park for some of the government workers. And I was fortunate enough to have a little travel trailer where I can stay. And so I came back first, and then through a lot of discussions with my parents, they were unsure if they wanted to come back and rebuild or build somewhere else. And eventually they came around to the conclusion that they were going to rebuild their house. So they came back down and rebuilt their house. I think it probably helped that I was going to be down here.
Right.
I was 21 or maybe 22 at the time, and then my little brother was still in high school. He actually had to finish in Virginia because we have an aunt that lives out there. So he finished high school out there, and then when he came back, he wanted to come back to St. Bernard as well. So a little bit of that all played some influence in them coming back.
Interesting. Wow, that's fantastic. So you were the catalyst for bringing the family back to St. Bernard Parish.
I guess you can say that. I don't want to say that I was, but I'm sure it played an influence.
Well, you look at it like so many parents, I shouldn't say, your type of, the parents that are your parents' age, a lot of those people did not come back after Katrina. The kids did, but a lot of the parents didn't. They had enough. They didn't want to rebuild. It was just too much. They lost too much. And so the idea of starting over was too much for the majority. I mean, we had 80,000 people that lived here. The average age before Katrina, it was like over 55. That was the average age. I mean, the majority of the people that lived here were older generation people. After Katrina, for the past 18 years, the average age has been about 35. So a lot of your parents' age did not come back, but people like you did. So you're the generation of St. Bernard that is predominantly leading this parish, your age, not the older people. So with that comes a little bit bigger burden or responsibility, which can be a good thing. People love to rise to the challenge. Some people don't. So that's why I like to have these conversations, because I want to know, who are the people that are leading this parish, and have they risen to the challenge of taking on that mantle of leadership? Because it is a big responsibility that we need. So tell me about your family. Are you married?
I am. I have my wife, Christy, formerly Christy Pell, now Christy Borden. We've been married for 7 years. Actually, our anniversary was March 13th, so just a week ago.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah. So married. I have 2 children and a stepson. So my daughter's 11-year-old Ella and 13-year-old Emma. And then my stepson Devin is 21. He's actually in the military. He's in the Army, stationed in North Carolina right now.
Wow. Okay.
So and then he got married not too long ago. Him and his wife are living out there in North Carolina, serving the country, doing his own thing.
Sure.
So we're real proud of him.
Excellent. All right, so how old are the kids at home? You said 7 or no?
11 and 13.
11, 13. Okay, excellent. And are they at school here?
Yes, so they're actually both at Tris. One's in 6th grade, one's in 8th grade right now. So it's the first time that they're really playing on the same sports teams. They're doing some of the same things, because being 2 years apart for rec, they kind of missed each other every 2 years. They move up. So it was fun this year watching them on the same volleyball team, the same basketball team.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from your parents that you applied to your marriage and as a parent?
Well, just that you have to make some sacrifices. You're not going to always get what you want, and it was that age-old saying, "Happy wife, happy life." So I know sometimes I can be a little difficult, and I procrastinate sometimes, and just understanding that it's not about me, it's about that family, and making sure that they're all taken care of first, and then I'll worry about my needs and wants after.
Okay. How long have you been with the fire department?
So I got hired December of 2004, which was about 9 months before Hurricane Katrina.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate. I got hired right after my 21st birthday, and went to the academy for a few months and got trained and got put on shift and kind of learning the organization and all the people and everything, and then a couple months later Katrina hit.
You said you were 19 or 20?
I was 20. I just made 21 when I got hired, so it was just under 20 years. So about 19 years and a couple months.
Okay, so as a 21-year-old, I haven't talked to a lot of people. You're 21 and working in the fire department who had to be here. I talked to some older people. What was it like for you? Did you leave? Did you evacuate, or were you here for the entire thing?
For Hurricane Katrina?
Katrina.
So no. So the way it worked for us is being a fire department employee is part of your job responsibility to be here.
Right.
So our organization activated. We knew this was going to be a bad one, and we had did one or two before, so I had a little bit of experience. But this one was a Category 5, and it was coming, right for us. So the fire chief and the parish government activated the whole fire department. So all 3 shifts came on, and we staged. So I was here for the whole duration.
So where were you?
I was at the Civic Center. Okay. So there was a group of us that were on the 2nd floor of the Civic Center. There was a group that was at the Domino Sugar Refinery. There was a smaller group that was at Chalmette High School, and then an even smaller group that was at St. Bernard High School, which was in the eastern end. And then the fire chief and a couple of his staff were at the government complex. Wow. So we were spread out pretty good, but the main core of the boots on the ground were at the Civic Center, Domino Sugar, and I guess you would say the high schools.
So what was that experience like?
That was, I've never had anything like that before in life. 21 years old, and we made it through the storm. It was, that night, it was a Sunday night, I believe, and, kind of up all night. We were just waiting. When the daylight broke, we looked out the window, and it was, they had some power lines down, some trees down, some things like that pretty routine, and we some damage, but we could sustain. But then we heard on the radio that the levee had broken the city and that water was coming. Wasn't sure if it was confirmed or not. Everybody was just kind of antsy. And then as the hours progressed throughout that morning, 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, the water kept rising until eventually it rose. It got into the Civic Center, the bottom floor, because we were on the bottom floor first. And so we had to grab all the equipment, all the rations and all of that, bring it to the 2nd floor. I distinctly remember one of the firefighters, as we were shuffling supplies up the stairs, and the water was rising on the outside of that building. The glass was actually keeping it out, but that glass eventually gave. And when the glass gave, that rush of water that just inundated the 1st floor of the Civic Center, I remember that, and then everybody running up the stairs, and that's,